Let's break the political talk show mold. Anything worth doing is hard, and that includes being a good citizen. Our mission is to help you be that better citizen by letting you hear about stuff you might not know, which will make everyone think you're so smart, or by giving you a chance to listen to interviews and debates on a wide variety of subjects that might actually allow you to form new opinions in the privacy of your own mind. I'm Justin Oldham, and you are listening to the Politics and Patriotism Show here on the Stitcher Smart Radio Network. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to a very special edition of the Politics and Patriotism Show. We don't get a chance to talk about the politics of personal responsibility on this program very often, and so it is with a sense of pride that I'm happy to bring you today a conversation I recently had with actor Kevin Sorbo. Now, this is no small thing because the internationally famous are often very difficult to get a hold of, but I got to tell you, I was surprised at how accessible this man is. He is passionate about what he believes in. He's positive in his worldview, and ultimately his outlook on life is something that we should all pay attention to, because in many respects, I believe what he says when he claims that we can, in fact, create our own destinies. And he should know what he's talking about, because this man kept, until very recently, a very difficult secret. Turns out that in the late 1990s, his health took a turn for the worse. And I'm going to let him tell you about it in the course of this program. Open your web browsers, go to kevinsorbo.net, and get ready to look and see and follow along with what Kevin says so that you'll be able to soak this up a bit more thoroughly. There's a lot of good food for thought on that website. You'll also want to bookmark worldfitforkids.org because that plays a prominent role in his life, and he'll be talking about that later towards the end of the show. Kevin Sorbo's book is entitled True Strength. It was published in 2012 by DeCapo Press, which is based out of lovely Boston, Massachusetts.
Let's talk.
All right, then. Well, for starters, if you would, please, just on the off chance that there might be somebody out there in our audience who doesn't know who you are, would you please introduce yourself?
I am Kevin Sorbo, and people may know me from a number of things, mostly probably from my two series that ran for 12 years consecutively, Hercules, A Legendary Journeys, and Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda.
Now, I've got to say that as I looked up your filmography, I didn't realize how busy you've been and how long you've actually been at this. You know, when I was reading your book, I
need a better publicist.
Well, I lost track of time because the story was so engrossing, and even though you make note of times and dates and things, I was just so involved in what happened to you that the years just flew right on by.
They do fly by, that's for sure. I can see it out the growth of my kids. It's pretty frightening.
That's true. Now, speaking of kids, I understand you grew up in Minnesota, and I'd like to point out that I'm talking to you today from Anchorage, Alaska, so I have some familiarity with that kind of weather, and I have to ask, do you miss it?
You know, I don't. I'm a skier. I love to ski, but I'll go and spend 2 weeks a year in the mountains, and then I know I'm heading back to California, where even today it's kind of a cold day here. It's going to only get up to about 66 degrees with blue skies. So it's my blood has thinned out a little bit since those days.
I'd trade a lot for 66 degrees right now.
Yes, I know you would. I mean, my buddies back in Minnesota, it's always around this time, February, where they'll give me a call and say, we need to meet you out in Palm Springs. So we'll see what happens. I'll expect that call pretty soon from them.
Well, I'd like to jump in to what actually happened to you without spending too much time on your film career and such, because I think people need to know. There's so much negativity in today's world. People need to know that it's really possible to overcome big challenges. So
Mm.
if you would please tell us how the whole thing started. I mean, there you are, September 1997, pretty much on top of the world, and then the big curveball.
Yeah, we were just wrapping up season 5 of Hercules, and I was going on a hiatus. I was actually heading to Atlanta to shoot a movie for Rafael de Laurentiis producing. It was a movie for Universal Studios, and I've been having problems with my left arm for about a couple months during that 5th season, and I just it kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. Well, eventually, what had happened was that they found a lump in my shoulder, but they found the lump too late. The lump was an aneurysm that already opened up, and my entire left arm was almost was purple basically by the time I got to ER. But 3 of those clots that were thrown, of the hundreds of clots that were thrown in my arm, 3 of the clots made it into my brain, and I suffered 3 strokes. And I went from a guy that was probably in better shape. I was 38 years old at the time. I was in better shape than most guys and athletes in their 20s. I'm 6'3", I was 235, then about 6-7% body fat. And I went from that guy to a guy that was about 90 years old within seconds. And I lost vision. I had balance issues that were horrible. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I know that because those blood clots, I call them the bullets, could have gone anywhere in my brain, anywhere. 2 went to my balance center, 1 went to my vision. I still have a 10% loss of vision in both eyes, and it took me months and months to learn to walk again, let alone learn to run again. And I went from 14 hours a day on the set when I went back for season 6 to 1 hour a day, and slowly worked my way back up by the end of season 7, which is 2 years after the strokes, to about 8 or 9 hours a day on the set. But it took 3 full years for me to recover and feel 100%. But I'm still not 100%. I mean, it's I'm people wouldn't know by looking at me, but I know what my shortcomings are now. Trust me.
So very few of us have a brush with mortality until much later in life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when that first happened to you, I felt I felt a great deal of sympathy as I kept turning the pages, because I myself, I'm disabled basically from birth. This is an absolute fact of life for me. And to be quite honest, I feel a great deal of sympathy for people that pick up a disability later in life, because it is such a heavy load. And I got to say, I'm very impressed with the way that you handled the depression when it first hit. And I'd like to know, now that you have some hindsight on this, you got 10 years or more, you can look back on this.
Sure.
What was it that allowed you to first get a handle on that? When did you first know that, hey, I'm depressed?
Well, pretty much almost immediately. I mean, I think initially it was just shock. What my body went through. I had all kinds of, panic anxiety attacks that followed. I had convulsions. I had all kinds of different things because my brain was completely altered from what it used to be. And I had 2 years. The first year was really bad, but 2 years of a sound in the back of my brain, just a vibrating sound. It's almost like that tinnitus, whatever they call it. And it was just going 24 hours a day for the first year, and it slowly got better during the second year. It would come and go and come and go. So that's when I knew that I was having some sort of improvement. But boy, you go through that. I mean, I'm telling you, if anything we all have in common, of course, it is death. Eventually, we all have to face that. As much as we don't want to, that's one thing that's a common denominator of our lives on this planet. And it was something that, as you said earlier, that you expect to happen later, much later in your life. And that's why the book was even written. It was really like, look, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And when you go through these changes in your life that you're going to have to go through, you are going to go through different stages. You can go through anger. You can go through depression. And it's really how you channel your own inner strength. That's where the title came from. The true strength was because, obviously, with Hercules, that was the phony strength. I had a bunch of stunt guys that made me look pretty good. And in this case, you really have to dig down deep and make up your mind how much better you want to get, because doctors gave me, after 8 months, they said, well, whatever you're feeling now, you got to live with the rest of your life. Well, after 8 months, I wasn't doing that well. I said, there's just no way this is the way it's going to end for me. There's just no way. I still want to act. I still want things to do. And, thank God Universal Studios kept the show going, and gave me, it really gave me a drive. Talk about real hope and change. This was real hope and change. It wasn't some phony politician telling us it was hope and change, but it was real. And I just pushed myself, and I think that's what I'm hoping this inspires people, that when they enter these this road that eventually we're all going to go on, they find their own true strength and push past what doctors and other people tell them what their limitations are going to be. Do not let other people set your limitations.
There's a great deal of truth to that, and since you were talking about doctors, I'm wondering again through the lens of hindsight here. I when I read about what your chiropractor and internal medicine specialist put you through, and then the way they sent you back out so soon, I was really shocked because I would have thought, just as a layperson, I would have thought that after the first CAT scan, after the first MRI, that they would have had you back for a second or even third go around. Now, I'm not asking you to litigate this thing or tell secrets or anything, but has the way people treat your condition changed? I mean, did they realize that they made any mistakes that they've now corrected procedures for?
Well, I think the chiropractic world knows that they're pretty much well aware of the neck manipulations. That's what sort of, I believe that's what sent the 3 clots into my brain, because where the aneurysm was situated in my left subclavicle, it was very close to the area. And when the chiropractor snapped my neck from left to right, I experienced the strokes fairly quickly after that, and it has been documented on on multiple cases every year where this does happen. I'm not trying to diss the Chiropractic Association. Trust me, I think there's some wonderful things that they do, but as they do on commercials, they list 7,000 side effects to drugs. I think that chiropractic doctors have to say, you know what, there is a chance it can happen, and it has happened. So, I can still go to a chiropractor. I get my neck worked on, my feet, my legs, whatever, and I don't have a problem with that. But I've never wanted my neck cracked. I've never liked it cracked. So when he cracked it, that was a very strange thing for me. And I just spoke at the American Heart Association's annual luncheon on stroke awareness down in Palm Beach, Florida, last month. And we had a number of people in the audience that suffered strokes. There was a woman there that her husband died after a neck manipulation. So it can happen. Is it rare? Yes, it's rare, but it still can happen. And people should have a choice of saying, you know what, I've cracked my neck all my life, so I like it. So I understand that. But, for me, it was all something that I never liked to do. So it was, to me, it was brought upon on me with something I didn't want to do. Did I have litigation there? Sure, I had litigation there. I didn't follow up on it, but I did. I mean, people sue for a lot less things than that. So, I'd do anything, and that's just me. I'm not that kind of person. So, but, as I said before, I mean, the doctors, it's called a practice for a reason, right? I mean, they're still learning themselves. I mean, people that get C's and D's in medical school are still called a doctor. So, people do make mistakes. But I think people got caught up in the whole Hercules thing with me as well. The neurologist in Los Angeles here even said to me when I said, dude, I don't feel well. I can barely walk around. He goes, oh, you'll be fine. You're Hercules. Well, whether he's making a joke or not, it's not the case. I mean, he still said that, and you're kind of going, but I'm not. I'm an actor who played Hercules. I wish I was the strongest man in the world, but I'm going to have to find my own strength and fight my way back. So it was crazy for me to go back and try to work again as quickly as I did, and we found out that was the wrong move. So the book definitely explains that.
That's very true, and I can attest to one thing. I try to be a little bit of a tough guy myself. And there have been plenty of times when I've been in the doctor's office and it feels like I've got a hot coal burning its way through my head, and I'll just look at the doctor and say, "Yeah, I'm fine. It's okay."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately,
that's we're guys. That's what we do.
It makes me feel bad to actually fess up and tell the truth, but I know they got to know these things.
Well, I think that's what we have to do, though. We have to pay attention to the body. I don't want people to become hypochondriacs now. But you have to pay attention to your body, and I didn't. But I mean, I came from the sports world, and I was always getting bumps and bruises. I was working out 2 hours a day on top of my 14-hour days on set, and I was lifting weights heavy, and I was doing all these fight scenes. I was doing most of my own stunts, so I always had bumps and cuts and bruises and body aches and pains. I was getting, massages every week, and I mean, that was a part of it, and I'm not complaining about it. I loved the show. I had a blast doing the show, and I was willing to give those time and those hours and give up my life basically for it because I had such a good time. I mean, that was a huge part of my life, and so you just have to, my body was telling me something's wrong with your arm, something's wrong with your hands, there's something wrong here, and I just did not listen to the voice. I did not listen to reason.
You mentioned that voice, and I'm curious to know, where do you think it came from?
Well, that was God. I mean, and your listeners need to know that when I was laying on the chiropractic table, I've been seeing the same guy for 8 years, and in 8 years, he has never, ever cracked my neck. And as I laid on that table, I heard a voice say, "Don't let him crack your neck." And I opened my eyes, I looked at the doctor, and I said, "What did you say?" He says, "I didn't say anything." I closed my eyes again. The voice even louder says, "Don't let him crack your neck." And I thought, how odd is that? Why am I hearing this voice telling me this? This guy's never cracked my neck in 8 years. Boom, he cracks my neck. And I sat up, and I said, "Why'd you do that?" He says, "I felt you needed it." And that's how it all came about. Within minutes of leaving the office, I suffered the strokes. And you got some neurologists that believe it certainly was the crack of the neck. You got other ones saying, no, you may have an artery there that's already that doesn't work well. But then they did the CAT scan, the MRI, my arteries. I mean, the guy that did the MRI and looked at my arteries. He said, "You got the arteries of like a 14-year-old boy. You should, you can go buy stock at McDonald's and eat all crap you want right now, because I led a very healthy lifestyle. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't, I was eating an amazing diet when I was doing Hercules. I was staying away from all the stuff that's fatty, so for me, it was nothing to do with an artery that was inferior. So it certainly had to do, I believe, the crack of the neck. But everybody can have their own opinion, and everybody has a right to it.
So, do you still trust modern medicine?
Sure, I do. I mean, it's there. But I honestly believe modern medicine needs to embrace Eastern medicine as well. I started doing meditation, acupuncture, which I thought was huge for me. Yoga, all kinds of different stretching. I did all kinds of things just to sort of to bring a more positive influence in my body. And acupuncture to me and meditation and yoga, those three combined were huge for me. Were huge in calming me down and losing my anger and losing my raging against the world for my own problems. And that's what the rest of the world needs to start doing right now, because we're in this self-entitlement world we live in right now. Everybody believes everybody else owes them, and everybody else is the reason they're failures. When it comes down to reality is look in the mirror every morning and point at yourself, because that's where the problem lies. You have to change your attitudes. You have to change the way you look at life and the way you look at yourself, and stop worrying about. I love FDR's quote. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. But certainly people spend a lot of time just living in fear, and that's why they don't go forward with their lives. And I'm hoping, the book is something I hope that motivates people, because this book's not about just people that suffer illnesses and near-death experiences like I did, but it's also just to, it's a way to have a rebirth of yourself and be more positive in your life, and be a more positive person is only going to make it more positive for people around you and make a better community for everyone.
Oh, I believe what you say entirely. I know that in my own life, I have learned many of the same lessons, almost verbatim, in terms of what you put down in the book. Learn how to be happy, embrace your shadow, manage the flow, and then
be grateful.
Live for others. So how did you embrace your shadow?
It took a while, but I met a chiropractor, and we're back to the chiropractor. I met a psychiatrist, actually, somebody I never thought I'd go in my life. And I only saw him like 3 or 4 times with this guy. Just, no kids' gloves. The gloves were off with this guy. He was like, "This is the way it is, pal. And you got to be more accepting of this. You got to look at this more in a positive way." He said, you have to learn that the word no is a positive word, not a negative. You have to embrace the fears in your life. He goes, you have these panic anxiety attacks now because now you feel you're exposed. You can feel like everybody sees your weakness, that you're really not Hercules anymore. And I said, I never thought I was Hercules. He said, yeah, you did. We all think we're Hercules at one time in our life, he said. So he said, but now your shadow's rearing its ugly head, and that shadow is that thing that, from birth, we just keep putting this big bag of garbage behind us, this negativity, and we keep dragging it around, and we're cynical, and we're down, and we like I said, we complain. And he said, now this thing is out, and it's taunting you. He says, embrace it. It's going to make you a better actor. When you feel crappy on the set, embrace that crappiness. Use it in your acting. And he's right. He was right. It has made me a better actor. I know it has. And it's made me a person that doesn't – I don't worry about what people are looking at or caring about or saying anymore. I just, it's life. Everybody's got their own insecurities and jealousies and all that stuff. And I just said, I'm tired of it. There's really no reason for it. Because you find out that most of the things we spend our lives worrying about never happens anyway. But we get all worked up for no reason. And it's just such wasted time and wasted energy when you can be so much more productive in other ways. As
I read the later parts of your book where you were finding the various workarounds so that you could just keep on trucking, I'm interested to know, because I'm not I'm not entirely sure as I read the parts of the book that are contributed by your wife. How much of that was a collaborative? How much of that was collaborative? Now, I've been married for 16 years, and I'll say that 2/3 of everything I do today, my wife has some hand in, and she has pulled me back from so many mistakes that I've lost count.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, the book is also is a love story. And it was my strokes happened 4 months before we were getting married. I mean, she got, before we even said for better or worse, she got the worst parts way ahead of time. So she stuck by my side and was very, very supportive. And during the writing of the book, she spent years bugging me to write this thing. And I'd kept notes through the years and started jotting down ideas and stuff. And so finally, when I got around to doing it, she was right there the whole way. She would read every page and say, you know what, this is what I remember, Kevin. You're not feeling good. This is more boom, 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 boom. And I just said, okay, listen, I want you to write a chapter, write a couple chapters. Why don't you get your point of view? And from that came the birth of, I'm going to put in my producer. I'm going to put in Michael Hurst, who played Eolus, my sidekick on the show. I'm going to put other people, George Lyle, who was our first assistant director, who was a good friend and, the hardworking guy. And, just, I wanted their opinions. Bruce Campbell, the other actor that appeared in quite a few episodes. I wanted them to put their words in what it was so that people can have more of a reality, not just hearing from me. They can hear from the voices of other people that were attached to my life at that time.
I don't think most of us are aware of it, but it dawned on me probably 14 years ago that we are successful in large part because of the efforts of other people. And that really comes out in this book, especially when I'm reading the chapters contributed by other people, because it was really quite clear that you wanted to help them and they wanted to help you, and that collaboration allowed everybody to succeed when they might have otherwise failed.
This program is brought to you by ShadowFusionBooks.com.
Well, I think, I learned quite early on. I said, I'm going to get my own series one day. I just believed that. I wouldn't have become an actor if I didn't think I was going to have success at it. I just knew I would because I had a strong business mind, and I just pushed myself and pushed myself. I tell people all the time in my after-school program, I work with over 12,000 kids, and I say, look at me. You see a successful guy. Well, you know what? I'm a 13-year overnight success, okay? I busted my butt. You don't know the before story, before Hercules, before Andromeda. You don't know all the stuff I went through before trying to get the success and trying to pay my rent in my little one-bedroom apartment, and it's funny, just like I said, going back to this entitlement world, it's like, you got to start someplace. I didn't own my first house until I was 40 years old. I wasn't living in a house before then. When I said, I worked hard. I worked hard to get to where I am, and it's just I learned going in other sets, looking at other actors, going, this guy's a jerk. This woman's a jerk, and there's people on their set hate them. I said, when I get my own show, why would I want people to hate me? We're all working on this together. Let's have fun together. So I know that I helped create a very easy and fun work environment because you're working 14 hours a day, 5 days a week for 7 years. Let's have fun doing this. This isn't brain surgery here, guys. This is having fun. We're creating entertainment for people to escape from their lives, and that's what television is. It's just let's give them. That's why it's hard for me to watch like doctor shows and stuff like that because I'd rather watch just fun shows. I'd rather watch fantasy or sci-fi, just something that really puts me in a whole different world, a whole different realm of reality, and just have a good time and escape from it. There's enough crap in the world. Why do I want to live through more of it, watching people die in a hospital? So, I'm always amazed that these shows do so well. But, congratulations, they do. But it's just a slice of life I'd rather avoid, especially since I spent so much time in hospital myself. I don't want to sit there and watch it again. But, a lot of it has to do with people you're working with. And I worked with wonderful, wonderful, talented people.
Now, you were talking about working with other people. You mentioned your kids' charity. Would you tell us how A World Fit for Kids got started?
Well, it was started by a woman named Normandy Nye before I was even on board. But she, they were small. They had a school, and they had maybe 500 students or something at the time. And she said, we got to bring more awareness to our program. We should get a celebrity. And all the kids yell out, Kevin Sorbo, Kevin Sorbo. She goes, who's that? She goes, she doesn't watch TV. She says, well, he plays Hercules on TV. Well, she actually followed up and got a hold of me down in New Zealand. We talked for a long time on the phone over, a few weeks. And I was looking for a program like this. I wanted to work with kids like this, after school to fight obesity, to work with their grades, to keep them in school, to prepare them for the future, to go into university and beyond. To work on self-esteem, mentoring programs at multiple levels, and they had all that stuff. Well, since I've been involved now for 15 years, now we're up to 12,000 students in the Los Angeles School District. LA Unified is one of the worst school districts in the country. 54% dropout rate, starting as low as fifth grade. And of those 12,000 students that are fortunate enough to be in our program, we'd like to have all of them, but we just can't afford it because our budget's strained the way it is, like everybody else's. But of the 12,000 students in a county that has a 54% dropout rate, we have a 95% graduation rate and a 67% higher GPA because we work with them. We don't pick out special kids. We work with kids from all walks of life, and we received an award 5 years ago for the best after-school program in the entire state of California, and now we're trying to go nationwide with it. So people can go online to it's all one word, World Fit for Kids. 4 is FOR, and that's the number. So worldfitforkids.org to get information. We have a big golf tournament coming up in Vegas, October 12th and 13th. We're looking for sponsors. We're looking for golfers. We got all the celebrities I need already. We got Kenny Loggins performing this year. So come on down to Vegas, and it's a great party.
What advice would you have for the average person on the street who wants to start something like that at the local level?
Go on the website, worldfitforkids.org. We're trying to go nationwide with it now. I go to D.C. once a year. Normandy, who runs it, goes to D.C. once a month. And we speak with Congress members, and we talk about keeping funding going there, and so much wasted money going everywhere else that comes up to nothing. And yet here we are. I tell these Congress people I get together with and go, look at what we do. What is it that I'm doing that you guys can't do with the stroke of a pen? I mean, let's face it. Our public education is appalling. It's pathetic. Our brightest 8th graders cannot compete with Asia's dumbest, for lack of a better word, 6th graders. Can't compete with them. And we have movies out there like Waiting for Superman and all these other movies now dealing with education, showing the reality of our school system. That union needs a serious overhaul. It's ridiculous. The whole pay scale for teachers. You can't pay teachers all the same amount of money just because they teach. I've taught for 20 years and he's taught for 20 years and I'm a great teacher and he's a sucky teacher. Yet they get paid the same amount of money because they both taught for 20 years. What kind of setup is that for motivation for teachers? There's none. There's no reason why teachers can't make 6 figures a year. But they have to set up a pay salary that deals with the reality of the world of competition. And it has to change. It's as simple as that. And yet it doesn't change. And you can point out all the flaws of our public school system, and you can see that nothing gets done. It just gets worse. And it's getting worse for the last 5 decades, little by little. But you look at 50 years ago and look at today, and it's a huge decline in what's going on. When you've got a nationwide average of over 50% of kids dropping out of school before they graduate. That's a problem. Parents need to get more involved, and the teachers need to get more involved as well. It's easy to teach the students that get A's and B's. The challenge is teaching the kids that get D's and F's. That's the challenges. I get it. Not everybody's as smart as each other. But that's not the point. The point is I'm not as good a golfer as Tiger Woods, and I never will be, okay? But, I don't scream that it's unfair that he's a better golfer than me. That's life, and competition is a good thing in life, and people need to learn that it is a good thing instead of, like I said, just complaining about, well, where's my fair share? You know what? Life was never promised to be fair for anybody. It's the way it is. I didn't grow up with anything. My dad was a public school teacher, so I know what I'm talking about a little bit in the public school world. I realized we didn't have money. I got hand-me-downs from my older brothers, but you know what? I had loving parents, caring parents, nurturing parents, and my dad was always about hard work. He preached hard work. And, I worked every job out in the book. I started my own paper out when I was 9 years old, did that for 7 years, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 6 days a week. I did that for 7 years, so I appreciate it. I was riding my bike in the winters, delivering papers at 30 below wind chill, still there.
I can entirely relate to everything that you're saying, and for what it's worth, I myself am legally blind, and I started mowing lawns at the age of 9. People were totally amazed that I was mowing lawns that I could not see, and I used to joke that it was the Braille method, and it actually got me more business. And then later on, when I got into the public school system further and further, third and fourth grade beyond, I had teachers and administrators telling me that if I would just be a good little boy and sit there, that they would just pass me from one grade to the next. And
Yeah, that's right.
every time I said to them, "Hey, well, what about this? I'm supposed to learn this just like everybody else." Well, no, you don't have to. And
And
as much
that's what we do. We graduate kids who can't read or write just because they got to get them through. Get them through. We need to keep our funding coming in. We need to make sure that we keep our, our student quota up. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing. And the teachers union can be pissed off all they want at me. I mean, they get mad at me because I'm speaking the truth. And it's incredible that the media doesn't talk about this more. That we have to rely on a few cable stations to actually point out the problems of this country when we see the problems in front of us. We see the problems in the inner cities, and what gets done? Nothing gets done. I mean, it's incredible to me. It's mind-boggling that it's just like it's okay. Even the problems at our borders. Nothing gets done. Bush didn't do anything about it. Obama's not doing anything about it. So I can blame on both sides. I'm one of those true independents in Hollywood. I'm a guy that votes with my heart and my brain, not my anger. I vote with common sense. It's annoying to me that we got people that turn their eyes to it and to pay no attention to the reality of what's going on in this country.
Hey, anything worth doing is hard, whether it's your
Of course
personal
it
life
is.
or even if it's your civic stuff. This is one of the reasons why I preach so hot and heavy about the get out and vote. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for. I just want you to separate backside from couch and go do it.
Yeah, and vote with common sense. Vote with the reality of, okay, what is it that's going to make this country better? What is it, period, that's going to make this country better and stronger like it used to be? What candidate do I want to represent me? And God bless you, no matter what side this. If you do it that way, then go for it. But don't vote because it's like, well, it's the politically correct thing to do. Oh, we're voting this way because, well, he's trying hard. Or, well, he believes in this. Or he promises it. Well, belief and promise doesn't equal reality. What can be done? And, D.C. needs a huge shakeup. I think this whole country should say term limits for everybody. If a president gets 8 years max, why do we got senators getting 40, 50-year careers? That's crazy. Get people in there that say, you know what, the most I'm going to get is 8 years here, so let me really do something. Instead of just grandstanding and double talking and not answering questions when I get asked the questions from the media. They're so good at just avoiding and dodging any questions that people ask. It's just like, wait, but do you like blue? And then they start talking about, no, just do you like the color blue? And you can't get them to answer that. It's amazing to me.
It is, and that's one of the reasons why I like doing what I do, because working down here at the street level, I do get to ask the hard questions, and I do get to allow people like you to get on your soapbox. And I think if we heard more of this, we'd have more food for thought, which means we'd actually know what we thought about things when it comes time to actually go vote.
Well, I've told people the reason why history repeats itself is because people don't read or teach history anymore. So if you see what's going on with the country now, you can go back and look at what's going on a couple times in the last century and go, oh, that's what happened. Okay, this might not be good. So it's interesting. It's interesting, but people have we have a very short attention span now. The apathy sort of rules the world right now, and people just say, I can't do anything about it, so they don't do anything.
Hey, you've just encapsulated the reason why I'm here, so amen.
Yeah, well, we've got to work hard, and you got to work. And the biggest thing about the next voter election is this voter fraud stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable that people talk about it, but are they going to be able to stop it from happening? I don't know.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
To the best of my knowledge, True Strength is Kevin Sorbo's very first book, unless he's out there using a pen name that we don't know about. There is a widespread belief among many that success somehow translates to health, and that's not always true. The simple fact of the matter is that we're all mortal, and when you get right down to it, absolutely none of us will get out of this thing alive. One of the big takeaways from this book for all of us should be the realization that no amount of fortune, no amount of fame can save us from our human frailties. And with that in mind, we should take a closer look at our politics and ask ourselves what really matters. Because as you heard from Kevin himself at the end of this interview, there's a lot of petty stuff going on out there that really just doesn't matter for anything. It's my hope that the people who need this book will find it. Anyone who's ever had to walk the hard road will tell you firsthand that many of these truths are not self-evident.